Hello and welcome to Beyond Borders, a space where we break down barriers between people, technology, art and mental health. Stay with us for open, thought-provoking conversations that spark ideas, challenge perspectives and bring us closer together. Welcome to Beyond Borders, a space where we break down barriers between people, technology, art, and mental health. Stay with us for open, thought-provoking conversations that spark ideas, challenge perspectives, and bring us closer together. I'm Carolyn, and I'm here with our hosting team, Pim, founder of Digitize, and Sprenko, writer, mental health consultant, and the founder of the Real Talk Hub. Today, we're diving into something I think so many of us can relate to: events, concerts, gigs, conferences, meetups, those shared moments that live on long after they're over. But today we're asking what happens when Web3 starts to quietly rewrite the rules behind the scenes. And I couldn't ask for better people to explore this with. Pim, Sprenko, are you ready to break this open with me today? Because I must admit that this isn't my forte.
Absolutely. I've been to quite some events right now, and I go frequently to events in general. If it's just, for example, NFT Paris was in February, but I also go to normal network events, which are just one day or a couple of hours. Or if it's art events, festivals, let's say concerts, many things that can be done when it comes to Web3, but the experience when going to events is definitely there. And I'm not sure what the event experience is for Sprenko, but I assume he has plenty of experience as well.
And that's an interesting topic, for sure, and I'm eager to dive into it.
Fabulous. So let's start with the obvious. Let's look at how it is today then. So for the majority of people, you book a concert or you book an event and you get a ticket, a physical one, or I guess on your phone in your wallet. But nothing, mainstream, I don't think, unless you tell me otherwise, is going on in terms of the blockchain. So what are people's experiences? Where I'm coming from with this, what problems can be solved by handing this over to Web3 and blockchain? So let's start with the worst, most frustrating, maybe event story that you've had, perhaps as attendee or organizer. Is that a good place to start, do we think?
Yeah, I think there's learning from, let's say, some issues can definitely be a great thing. I think when it comes to events and you're trying to network, many people know each other from, let's say, social media, and so it's not really a face connection to it. That is always my issue in general because I want to meet certain people and message them. But for example, they have a PFP and not a real face that I can search for. I do have my face as my profile picture, and I'm quite tall, so I'm always quite easy to find on events. So that's definitely a plus. So when Web3 or blockchain comes into place, that you can actually showcase, okay, I have this ticket ready for, let's say, June, can be seen on blockchain, and people who are also going can interact with everyone who ticket is bought via blockchain. So everybody can confirm who is going and who is not. And that can make networking a little bit easier and actually be an open door for sending messages. Hey, I saw that you are going to that event. Hey, we could meet up, have a lunch, or have a little talk at the event itself. And let's go forward on this idea because I like what you do for work, for example. I think that's going to be a major plus when it comes to doing events. It just helps with networking. And the overall events are quite good arranged. As you said, you get your ticket on the phone, you probably get a wristband with a certain color for how many days you are going or what access do you have. That always works great because you don't want to show your ticket at the door every time. You just can show the wristband and you can walk through. It's a little bit easier also when you have side events with the overall event. That really helps. I'm not sure when it comes to if we want to do blockchain and replace the wristbands. I don't think that's a good idea because the wristbands are physical and actually work very well. So I will not change any of that. But I think that just major opportunities when it comes to verification that you are going and that people can work towards the event and actually prepare. I think that's going to be a great thing. What are you thinking about that, Spranko? Do you like the idea of internet using blockchain so people can verify they are going to the event?
Yeah, I think it's a cool idea. I think it's cool. I think it's something that could, change the way people get to find, people they're looking forward to. Even though, not everybody goes to events looking forward to being identified easily. For example, I organize events and I attend some of them as well. And I usually like to just be another identity in the crowd, I don't want to have a lot of people just coming around, hey, hello, how are you? This, and even my Instagram, is private, you know, before I started, the real talk up. And I think I would share one of my worst experiences with ticketing, which is one of the reasons that I want to embrace, using blockchain for events is, having registered online, right? You have your tickets in your email, and then you get to the venue and you showcase your tickets, and you're being told, "Oh, sorry, it's expired." Or we did the ticket master or the ticketing platform sent you the wrong schedule, and then I have to wait outside for the event organizers to rectify it or tell me, "Oh, you know what? I'm sorry, you cannot get into VIP because blah blah blah." I'm like, "Geez, really?" you know. And now the problem becomes mine, or I have to pay extra to get access to certain venues in that event. That's one of the worst experiences I've had, and I think with the introduction of blockchain, that can be solved. But I'm curious to why Carolyn thinks that's a great approach as well. What she has to say about this.
Yeah, I think I'm learning an awful lot here so far today, and I'm going to learn more, obviously. I think what I'm hearing from both of you, as somebody with not a lot of knowledge of this area, is that blockchain technology can fix some things that are wrong with the ticketing industry and the music industry or any other events industry that's producing ticket. The stuff that frustrates us now can be sorted out by the technology that sits behind it. But I think also there's some exciting stuff I think can come out of this. And I'm looking at it from the point of view of being an artist and, sort of involved in NFTs. And, people think they're just pixelated pictures, but they're not, aren't they? Are they? Because we can actually find ourselves here where the art and or the NFT can be incorporated into a smart ticket. And I'll share a story with you, which is quite poignant for me. Many years ago, back in the day, I attended a Queen concert in Dortmund and had the ticket stub and had everything to do with the concert. But over the years, with moves and whatever, that has gone. And when I was thinking about the prep for this podcast today, I was thinking about how amazing it would have been had I had a virtual blockchain ticket that would have persisted over the decades, and I'd still have that, and I'm not talking about value. It might have been worth something now, who knows, but I would have kept it and maintained it without the danger of it being lost. So
Mm.
tickets prove, don't they, that we were there. Tickets, unlock stuff potentially after an event, maybe.
Mm.
That's the thing about all of this, I think, excites me. So have either of you seen that done well yet? Or where do we think the real magic could be with NFT tickets? Spren, go first.
Yes, it's a beautiful story you've shared, Caroline, and it goes to say so much about why blockchain tech it's it's gonna be a great addition to events, concerts, conferences and the likes. There's this NFT I minted about 2 years ago on the Polygon network, um, launched by a Nigerian musician. Benson, BNXN. And, at the time, he was, an emerging artist doing well, but, he's performed in a few cities, in Europe. And people were very skeptical. Oh, he's just trying to build NFTs, so he can make some money. But then something happened, right? He gave us a very amazing utility. Every holder of that NFT had access to every single one of his performances, concerts, whether he was headlining or he was, scheduled to perform there, in every city, in every continent in the world. So if you're in Qatar and he's performing there alongside Lil Wayne, Beyonce, Jay-Z, you show the NFT at the entrance, you get access. If he's in London and he's performing his headline show at the O2, you show the NFT, you have access. That was one of a kind, and it was amazing. Now, he took it a step further, and it didn't just end there. Holding that NFT gave us access to merch at the events that he headlined. So he would do his concert at the end of the year, and everybody who had that NFT, as long as you could present it, from your wallet, you're not just screenshotting the JPEG, but you can prove that you own that NFT. It's in your wallet. Your token is verified. You have access to merch, 50% discount. You have access to the VIP area. You have access to network with other celebrities. It was beautiful. So I think and I believe that NFTs are a great way to provide utility, not just for events, but for the event goers. It's a way to introduce a brand new experience. And, I cannot wait for a lot more brands, individuals to start utilizing the power of NFTs and blockchain to give people a new, renewed experience.
That's a great story, Spenko. Thank you for sharing that. What about you, Pim? Have you seen it done well yet?
Well, I do always like what NFT in New York is doing, that you can actually get like a card of an artist that you really like. So I'm happy to be of being selected with my art, and people get a ticket with my artwork if they want to. They can collect it. It's a collectible. I think that is great because you also showcase, oh, I really like that artist. I'm able to support that artist even when it's very little when it comes to revenue, but it is a clear message. Okay, people like my art. That's cool. I might be able to see them in New York. I'm probably not attending, but we'll see. But there's a great push for artists to keep on going, and I think that's something they do very greatly. And what I also want to say when it comes to tickets in general, when you use blockchain, and for example, you bought your ticket via blockchain, which everybody can see, so it can be verified that it's a real ticket, and you say, "Oh, I'm not able to go anymore." You could sell that ticket and be verified for the upcoming buyer that it's actually a real ticket. So scams are, when it comes to ticket scams, it reduces the chance that people are actually getting scammed for very expensive tickets that are not tickets. I think that's a great thing that blockchain can actually help with. And I hope it might actually happen someday, but we'll see. And your ticket is an NFT. And also when you're attending, you can get like, oh, you attended the event, or we scanned your ticket, or we saw on the blockchain that you went because of you did some kind of transaction, or just confirmed that you went, and you can later on mint a proof attendance when you're back home, which can be again an artist that you like, an artist that you prefer, or the selected artist that created. That can be done with NFTs, and then you have an NFT that you may be even able to display at home when those screens finally appear for, let's say, the masses, that you have a screen at home that showcases your NFTs. I think that will be absolutely great, because then if you lose your physical ticket, you still have your digital ticket that you can showcase at home. And then sometimes when you look at that screen, okay, oh yeah, wait, I went to that concert or I went to that event, and pick up memories that you have from that event. I think that will be great. But will that be a solution for you, Caroline, when you have, let's say, a digital screen at home that showcases tickets that you went to?
Yes, and I find this aspect of it super exciting, to be honest, because my brain goes into overtime thinking about, I'm linking this with previous podcast episode where we've talked about community. And I know that, music bands particularly have, strong community which coalesce around their image, their brand, their music. But this is kind of like an additional layer of glue, isn't it? Because as you're describing, Pim, you could be 5 years later sitting down and something pings on your phone and that particular brand has put out a new video edited of the concert that you went to 5 years ago, and then you go and find it or on your digital screen as you describe. So it's kind of like the gift that keeps on giving, isn't it? And that I find super exciting. But what I wanted to do at this point, before we move on, is to sort of just, for anybody listening that doesn't know what an NFT is or is like, oh no, NFTs, can we give them a little description? Pim, are you happy to do that?
Well, yeah. So an NFT is a non-fungible token. Just to keep it as simple as possible, you upload data via minting on the blockchain, and you can later on list it as well, and it will stay on the blockchain. People can see it. People can see that you were the one who uploaded it. Can see that you are the owner. So when it comes to, let's say, concerts, you can verify that the concert organizer actually made the ticket when listed the ticket and that you minted it, which can be, let's say, a proof of minting. When you lose your ticket or they have a problem with your ticket at the gate, you can showcase, I am the one who actually bought and minted the ticket, and actually showcasing it. And I think Spranko can tell a lot more when it comes to NFTs and what an NFT is. So I'm ready to pass it through to him.
Oh, no, that's spot on, Pim. And I know a lot of people, hear the term non-fungible token and wonder what are they talking about? I'm just gonna keep it light, right? NFTs can be anything: an image, a drawing, a photograph, a dot on a piece of paper. As long as it's digitized and uploaded to the blockchain, it becomes an NFT. So there's no limitation with what artists can create. People take a picture of themselves and make it into an NFT. As long as there's a verifiable claim, of who owns it and how it became to exist on the blockchain. It can be called an NFT.
Love that, Bo. Thank you so much for that. I'm sure that has helped many people listening in. And obviously, if you've got more questions about NFTs or anything related to the chat today, come and find us on social media. So, what you've just shared, it makes me think about identity. And you've touched on it with regards to scanning something as you go in, and then the system knows it's you're there, you're linked to that NFT or that ticket because it's on the blockchain. So what are we talking about there? Is it safe? Is it private? Will it be easy? Is it as simple as we are saying? Is this the beauty of blockchain technology for this industry? Pim, what do you think?
Well, I do think so. It can be quite simple after you set up your wallet and connect it to your phone, etc. But it's not really hands-on yet for many people. Definitely for people who are not really into crypto or into blockchain, it's going to be very new and maybe a little bit intimidating. So when safe, it can be safe, but I think it's a very good thing for people to do in general when it comes to safety and blockchain. Educate yourself on, let's say, things to do, things to not do, how to store your seed phrase, what is a ledger, how to safely interact with people. I think there's a big guideline when it comes to safety and these types of not really events, but spaces that are working with blockchain, because there's many unknown things and many people trying to get advantage of, which is also the case with normal tickets. There are people who are trying to scam you out of tickets or selling them or buying them and selling them for a much larger price. So it is in both ways. There are things that can be a little bit difficult when it comes to safety, but I think there's definitely a path to go once it gets more hands-on and more used to for many people. It can be quite great to actually have it just on your phone. You have your verification on your phone. Even if you lose, let's say, the QR ticket, you still have your blockchain ticket. When it goes to the processes, I think it's going to be a great adding once more people are starting to use it, because that's going to be a must. And it's also going to be on L2, which is cheap in transactions and a little bit better for the environment than the normal ones. So the options are there. I think just people need to start working with it and see, okay, these are the problems we are getting. This is how we fix it. This is how we fix it for the larger people, the larger masses. And that's how we can go on and go on and go on. And I think Sprinkle can actually also tell more about safety when it comes to these things, and what he thinks that should be done when it comes to the tickets and actually getting people to use it.
Yeah, the idea of, decentralized identity and, ease of use, it has its pros and cons like every other thing, right? Now, when you think about it, people can easily walk up to a counter. There's nobody there. You just scan. There's no queues, and you just have their way, right? And you mentioned something as well, Pim, the ways to verify, ownership. Now, with traditional tickets, people can, pick your pockets, take your ticket, go to the registration point and get access, right? But with the technology of the blockchain, it's almost impossible, because even with some of the use cases that we're already, familiar with, you cannot just take somebody's wallet address and use for something. Most of the time, you have to confirm ownership, by signing into your wallet, verifying your ownership by, confirming that you own the particular address. So it sort of protects the owner. But the thing that I keep thinking about is it safe? Not for the blockchain, not for the brand, not for the event, not for the concert, not for the company, but for the user. As much as decentralization is to, benefit the user, do we still worry about, data harvesting? Do we still worry about the trust that we can give to these platforms, to the blockchain? Because like we know, nobody's exactly controlling it, right? So that's my only concern. As long as you, as the user, can protect yourself, it's not your, keys, not your crypto, not, don't give away your seed phrase, all that stuff. Don't click phishing links and all that. The only question I ask myself is, would my data, would my information be safe, with anybody who can use it on my behalf? But on that, on that note, I think it would be great for events, and I think it just protects the users, because Pim cannot use my access. Carolyn cannot use it because they cannot prove that they own what they don't own. You feel me?
Yeah, I
Yeah,
get you. Yeah, absolutely. Sorry, Pim. Did you want to come in there?
yeah, and it's also great. So let's say you are not able, I'm not able to attend, and I know that Spranko is able to attend. Uh, we can always just say send the ticket to him via blockchain, which then still verified that Spranko has the ticket. And I think that enables a lot of things when it comes to safety of reselling the tickets, making sure that the ticket isn't already used when you come to the desk. So that this ticket is already in. It prevents that, and you can actually be safe that you are able to go into the event. I think that's a great thing.
Mhm.
And feel free what you wanted to say, Caroline.
I know, I was just going to say, you've shared some fantastic stuff there, and it's super interesting, isn't it, when we talk about safety and security, and it is as applicable in, all walks of life, everything we do as it is in the blockchain. And that's important, really. I think that, there's a lot of lack of knowledge at the minute with regards to blockchain technology and a lot of fear surrounding it. But it is an amazing technology that could revolutionize this industry in the right hands and with some, caution and thought about how data is handled and how people can protect themselves. So thank you both for that so much. Just wanted to move on and talk a little bit about smart contracts and paying creators. And I think one of the things that we would like to share during this session is the versatility of smart contracts, the principles behind them in terms of handling payments to artists, potential royalties, the simplicity of it really. So do we think, Pim, that this has the potential to change things dramatically for performers and small vendors, or do we think they'll find it hard to make the shift?
Well, I think it's definitely possible when you look at events that, for example, have digital art showcased in very small exhibitions or big ones. And there's always a QR code that people can scan, which is on the screen most of the times or next to it, very similar to when you go to a normal art exhibition. People can scan it, connect their wallet, buy it from the point, and it will be in their wallet. It shows that that can be done, and it happens during events. A lot less than it used to be, but it's definitely a possibility. And also, um, nowadays, when you buy products that are at the event, it's still with the normal currency. Then you have to make an account. You have to make a fill in your numbers. For example, most time it's credit cards in my case, and then you can actually buy the product. And then if this can also be done via blockchain, it can be a little bit easier because you don't have to set up an account. You can just pay and get the product. I think that something can be a little bit faster than, okay, I need to set up an account. I just want to pay and get my product. I think that's a little bit easier done, and that can be done via blockchain. So that can help vendors or people who are selling some products that are really related to the event. Uh, that can be a great possibility. And also, for example, for music artists or artists in general that you want to support, you can just send them via L2. You can send them, let's say, a tip or a thank you via the blockchain very easily. And that can also be very easily set up by the artist or by the vendor or by the music creator, whatever. So I think that will be great if that actually comes to events.
Lovely. Thank you for that, Pim. What about you, Sprinko? I know you've got a foot in this camp. Do you think that artists would embrace this easily, or would there be resistance?
I think a lot of artists would, because it's in their best interest if you look at it, right? It makes things way easier to track, to monitor, and I like when you ask even as relates to small vendors, because I remember an event I was a part of as a vendor, and the terms and conditions were that we would have to remit a certain percentage of the our revenue to the organizers, right? And then they even give us a payment system to use, but at the end they didn't remit our funds to us. The only advantage that we had, and that was just a few of us, was their payment system was faulty at some point, so we had to use ours, and those were the funds that we were we're only able to to recoup. Now, if we had used the smart contracts, we wouldn't have such issues, because in the creation and execution of the smart contract, it would be imputed there. What percentage goes to who, when it goes, at what point do you stop collecting this? Or, nobody can change it afterwards. That's why we've had a few cases where mint funds are stuck and the founders cannot even pull that because the dev had, put a clause there that says if it doesn't hit this amount or if it hits this amount, you cannot touch it. So I think it will be something that artists would embrace because even when it comes to things like advances and event tickets payments revenue from concerts, it would be there's no big time lawyer that can come in and say, no, 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 you cannot do this, you cannot do that. Everything is the smart contracts controls everything, and nobody can, step on any other, person's head because you're more famous or you have, big back, funds behind you.
I think what you're describing, Sprenko, is a bit, it can be a bit messy, can't it? But I think Web3 probably, I think we can be certain in saying Web3 probably won't replace what makes events magic, but it might just fix what makes them messy. So as we wrap up for today and this discussion, I want to ask you both, what's the one thing you'd like to see Web3 change about events in the future? Sprenko.
Well, I would love more events to embrace two things. One, let's stop limiting NFTs to just tradable JPEGs. They're great for ticketing and to prove and retain ownership and create added utilities to the attendees. The second thing would be to utilize smart contracts as the verifiable means to organize and execute payments to artists, creators, event attendants, and vendors. That would be game changing.
And you, Pim, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I will probably just would really like to see more visuals when it comes to screen usage or visuals in general via beamers, etc. I think many events, in general, NFT events are quite decorated with all kinds of things. When you go to, for example, tech events or tech fairs, um, it's not really there. It's just really gray and it's not really inviting, I would say. Just a couple of visuals it would just make the day a little bit easier, get some more refreshing views, I would say, literally, because looking at green or gray or very less decorated boxes the whole day trying to network is a lot more tiring than some visuals that you just could take a break of, let's say, the rest of the information. I think that will actually help the day a lot more. So that is what I would hope to see in the normal events. We also will be integration Web3, which will be great. But doubt to see you soon.
That's lovely. Thank you so much for that, both. And thank you for today. That's it, really. You've been listening to Beyond Borders. So thank you for listening. And if this sparked an idea, come and find us on our socials. We'd love to hear your thoughts. We'll be back next week with more insights, same time, same place. See you then.